Welcome to the Tim Castle Show, where I sit down with courageous individuals doing inspirational things around the world. Whether it's AI, crypto, mindset, leadership, negotiation and sales, I've got you covered. I sit at that nexus of disruption and change. I'm loving every second of this. I really do believe this is the most abundant time that we've lived in. And if we harness what's going on correctly, we can build businesses that are going to transform our future and your lives. So come with me on this journey, meet the people. I pull back the curtain, I find out who they really are. I started off building this podcast for my sons as something they could look back on later in life and see the conversations that their dad had with people that he respected and admired, but most of all, get the lessons. And now I'm sharing those lessons with you and the reasons that people had done things, the ambition, the passion, and the hardship and their vulnerabilities. And I actually really enjoy it. This is one of the most special times as I get to sit down with people that I really would love to chat to and ask them the questions that are burning in my mind. If you are the same as me and you're pushing the limits and the edges of what you do, please like and subscribe to the show. It helps me tremendously to get new guests on the show and expand that reach so we can help more people together. Okay, so today we're joined by an entrepreneur that is building at the intersection of AI and the future of ads. Andrea, CEO of Thrad, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Tim. So excited to be here.
Me too. I've been excited all day to do this with you. So you're on a mission to help businesses harness AI in ways that go way beyond automation. And you're creating systems that think, adapt, and drive real commercial outcomes. And so in a world where every company is asking, how do we actually see AI and how do we grow with AI and what is AI doing? Like, you're at the forefront of finding these answers. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. You're building advertising into a place where people are increasingly going to learn, to think, to dive into, make those decisions. Is this the greatest opportunity that marketing has had in the last 20 years, do you think? Like, is it the great test? Can we earn people's trust again? Like, where do you fall down on that line?
That's right. We're putting ads inside of AI, right? Until now, we've had a lot of conversations about AI advertising, but not so much about advertising inside of AI. And so this is what we do at Thrad, where we put ads inside of LLMs. We do paid ads inside of AI, paid media in LLMs. And so why is that so exciting? Like you mentioned, more and more people are using those services, and it's becoming an increasingly important proportion of their digital consumption. And so, AI is very expensive. By injecting a native conversational ads once in a while inside of those responses, we're able to subsidize AI, make it cheaper, make it free, make it more accessible, and then enable brands to reach their users in those environments.
What do you think then? So this is all about inside AI conversations. What is it that people misunderstand about Thrad and the future of advertising in this way?
Yeah, I think it might be the scale of what we had ahead of us, right? I think most people can appreciate that some people are chatting to AI once in a while. Sure, I'll, ask ChatGPT to rewrite my email, but it's actually much broader than that. I mean, people are using AI across all walks of life, from consumer use cases across the board to B2B, right, at work. And so I think the internet is becoming much more conversational than what we realize and what we appreciate. If you look at the total amount of clicks on the internet, it's dropping, right? And people are clicking less, they're chatting more. And so I think this is what's interesting to us, being at the forefront of the category, in the trenches, seeing the data that today billions of people are chatting to LLMs every single day. And so I think, that has obviously incredible implications from the advertising industry. As a media buyer, as a publisher, businesses are being disrupted. And I think that is what's probably most misunderstood here.
Yeah, you're right. The scale and the speed, isn't it? And if you think about, like, you alluded to it as well, like zero click, the fact that we're now moving into a whole new behavioral set. And I know, so marketing traditionally were always about attention. Like, let's try and get attention. That's the aim of the game, whether that's through creative or the right timing. We're now moving into this economy where brands can genuinely help people at the exact moment they need something. So, like, what is it about that Thrad is doing to make this, I guess, less clunky, less like what remove the friction from that process?
Absolutely. I think that my definition of advertising, which I borrow from Seth Godin, is that marketing is about spreading ideas that matter to people who care, right? There's incredible ideas, incredible companies, incredible startups, incredible services in the world, and people should know about them. And so, in that sense, when we put ads inside our LLMs, we're able to connect, right? Millions of people chatting to AI with thousands of brands they should know about. And so, why does that matter? How we're able to help those people is that if you think about it, most people chatting to LLMs, they basically have problems, right? They're trying to achieve a specific outcomes. They have their endeavors. And so most people chatting to the LLMs are asking questions like, hey, where can I travel to? Can you help me with my work? Can you help me with my fitness journey, right? People have problems. Companies solve people's problems. And so with AI, we're able to match the two even more efficiently, right? If I need to travel to a certain destination, well, sure, ChatGPT can give me some kind of response, but actually I need a company, that has services and products that can actually help me do the traveling and help me, with vitamins and health products that can help me with my journey. And so that's it, right? At the most simple level, people chat about things and they need help with a specific outcomes. And so, by injecting advertising inside of those responses once in a while, we can show them companies, products, brands that can actually help them and companies that they love.
That's cool. So you're like extending the conversation so that it feels natural, but it's actually becoming an aid as well because it's you're joining it to something that's quite personal, and it's when you because you. I mean, I trust my AI. I'm nice to my AI. I trust it. It's like it's there. I know it messes up sometimes, but yeah, if it was to hand select the right ad for the moment, like an Uber or something that I really, really needed, concierge service or something, it would work. So if we look at like the last 2 decades, CMOs have been very focused on funnels, optimization around impressions, clicks, conversion rates, all of those lovely metrics. What do you think about an AI-led post-click world? Like what would a new measurement framework look like?
Yeah, I think an interesting thought experiment we're having is that given there are fewer clicks, right? We're entering this post-click advertising economy, people are clicking less, they're chatting more. And so even from a monetization perspective, we're thinking about not a cost per click, but a cost per conversation, right?
Ooh.
What is the response rate, right? If this is probably the first time ever that brands can talk to their customers at scale one-on-one. And what do I mean by that? Is that if I walk in the street right now and I see a billboard, a physical billboard of JCDecaux for Adidas shoes, and I like the shoes, I can't literally talk to the billboard and say, how light are the shoes, are the shoes waterproof? Same on any display ad, any video ad. I can't talk to my Instagram, ad and say like, do you have the same shoes in red? Where is the closest store next to me right now? I can literally chat to the ad, right? In an LLM, I can talk to the brand. I can talk to the ad. I can say, I love those shoes. Actually, the last ones I tried, they weren't comfortable, but I still want to try them out. Where is the closest store next to me right now? Right. And so, how incredible is that from a consumer perspective, but also from a brand perspective, right? I'm able to much better understand my customers and therefore better serve them. And so, what's interesting here, when we're thinking about, the future of measurement, is very much that, like, how are people chatting to the brand? You have this new form factor that gets unlocked, and so it's a new way of interaction where until now advertising was very one-sided, and now actually you can close the loop and have an interaction where the brand can now talk back to the user, right? Before it just kind of broadcasted one-sided, right? The brand broadcast their ads to the consumers, they can't talk back to you. Now the consumer can actually talk back to the brand in a scalable way, and I think that's fascinating.
Right, yeah, you could go through to a website and then you might have to sift through and find the information. If it's a well-designed website, you'd get the information you're looking for. But in this case, I can ask any question I like. I can prompt the ad and it can give me more detail. This is cool. Yeah, that's right. You're having a conversation with the brand in real
Yeah,
time. It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
It's like having I guess, a geo store locator in an ad, but it's live. I don't need to then think that through if I want to
Yeah.
understand the
Well, you
timing
can ask
the store's
anything, right?
open.
So if it's
Yeah,
like about the location, well, I'm actually close to the store. Maybe like, should I go there? Or it's
opening
any other
hours.
question about the product, right?
And I guess if you scale this out to when agents are the new consumer as well, you'd then be thinking about another agent in the store. I mean, this is getting a bit more futuristic, but I bet you're thinking about stores that have inventory availability, and those agents know the stock. So you're able to say, "Do you have this shoe in my size at this store?" Yes, no, right? Is that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the question around agents um, transcend, I think, the traditional concept of advertising. I think like some people are talking to me about ads to agents, and I think that is not so much advertising, at least in the traditional sense of desire generation, demand creation. Like an ad to an agent is more of a just like asking about the inventory. That's not an ad. That's just like a transaction that's a piece of information that helps me then make a decision. And so I think advertising only can interface with like humans. So sure, like I'm gonna give whatever information to the agent, but then at the end of the day, the agent needs to interface with me. The LLM is gonna talk to me, and so the output of that response, that is when advertising paid promotion can be injected that is obviously separate from the organic response. I think that is like if we stay within the framework of like the traditional concept of advertising at least.
yeah, that's cool. It all backs up back into a human at the end of the day, and you're trying to build that desire, that brand loyalty, that discovery, and being able to hook in. There's way more hooks when you've got an LLM to interact with. So on that, how much more powerful is a conversational intent than traditional search? Like social signals, how people use, I guess, how do people use this responsibly without making them feel like they're being watched or manipulated? Because if I'm having a conversation with my LLM, that's my AI, part of that is quite could be quite private.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as much as conversational advertising can be powerful, it also needs to have guardrails that ensure that it is safe advertising, right? That it is a user-friendly, privacy-friendly experience. And so from an architectural perspective, we have a lot of data from the conversations, right? And so we have a lot more data, very rich, very dense data, right? It's not like on search where people only type a few keywords. Instead of LLMs, people type their whole lives, right? They have paragraph long prompts compounded over deep conversations. That's incredible from a data perspective because it enables me to much better understand people, much better serve them as a brand, show them things that are more helpful or more valuable to them. At the same time, because it's much more contextual, I don't really care about who you are, but more about what you're chatting about right now. And so actually, it's much more privacy friendly because I don't need to know everything about you and your past and your family and everything like that and your friends, but just about like you're chatting about something right now. What can I show you that's helpful to you right now? And so from an architectural perspective, technical perspective, that is much more privacy friendly. The other aspect is, I think, if we dive into the ethics, I mean, there's a few points here. Obviously, regulation needs to follow with that, and I think companies will have to comply with that, and the private companies working together with the regulators and so on. But I think from a principle perspective, what is important to kind of follow here is ensure that paid advertising is not shown in environments where um, the consumer and the user is on a back foot when they're in a weak position where you can kind of abuse their position of weakness in some sense, right? So if someone is having some like mental health breakdown or they have some kind of problems that enable you to transgress the trust, right? And kind of use them um, even with their consent, but in a state that they're not, fully, fully able to make the most reasonable decision, right? Like if I'm crying, for example, and like I'm not in the best state, well, probably that's like they're not in their full capacity to think reasonably, and so you wouldn't want to abuse those kind of positions. So I think that's kind of these kind of setups are when you shouldn't show advertising. I think we're actually the first company in the world to open source two models around brand safety. So on a website or even on Hugging Face, I think it's very important to ensure that advertising in LLMs is safe. And this, so we built two open source AI models, two Distilbert models that ensure that, based on the conversation that people are having, we're able to detect, okay, are they in a position where they're not, having they have these sensitive conversations, and so you wouldn't want to have advertising in those environments.
Okay, so you put some guardrails around that and you thought that's cool. You thought through how and when because it's a completely different and new situation, right? So the framework needs to adapt, much like we've got guardrails on brand safety in digital advertising. Traditionally, you're now applying that to the LLM world. What about being interrupted though? If I'm in a rush, I'm on my AI, it's more functional. I'm not necessarily doing deep research. I just need an answer and then suddenly I get all these ads. Like, how do you make sure that it's a genuinely useful ad inside a AI conversation?
I mean, that is just a function of data, right? Like testing, experimentation. It really depends. There's no like one single answer, but it's more about, showing some ads, seeing if they're helpful, seeing if they're not. And we spend a lot of time thinking about this ad opportunity detection mechanism where we see, okay, should we show an ad here? Should we not show an ad here? And part of that is detecting how commercial the conversations are, right? If I just asking something like, what's the weather like? Probably there's not so much highly commercial intent, right? But if I say, oh, I'm thinking about buying this or this, then that's probably an environment when I'm open and willing to actually be shown an ad, right? I want you to show me something that's valuable to me. And so, in the most simple terms, is like, okay, is there commercial intent? Does someone want to buy something, or are they in a buying journey that they're entering? Then that's probably a good moment to show an ad where the user wants to show one, the brand probably has something helpful to show to the user. Whereas if there's not that much commercial intent, probably, let's leave people alone and have like their conversation without an ad.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you're looking at the intent of the interaction and then really you've got some protocol and you're doing, I mean, I guess the data you want it to work in that way. So it will start to skew and you'll get very, very good at knowing exactly when the right moments are to be putting the right
Yes.
ads in front of people. So AI, it gives marketers this immense ability to create and personalize content. We've got that. It's extraordinary fast. How do we stop that becoming noise? And how do we stop that making generic creative and less human? And what makes great creative stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I think that AI definitely has the capabilities to make copy and creative much more personalized, right? That's what we're doing inside of LLMs ourselves, where every single message, every single response is generated in real time based on the conversation, right? And so it's not just like a general copy. If I'm chatting about travel, I want to travel to Singapore, I want to travel to London, I'm not going to show an ad for a car insurance, or a rental car company at the airport, just a general one. If I know that, you're traveling and you said, oh, I'm traveling with my girlfriend and I want to go here for X amount of days, then I'm going to show you the actual car, of the car rental that's most fit for you. And so I think this is where AI can be super valuable because it actually enable you to pierce through the noise to find the information that's most useful and to make, just this whole system a lot more efficient rather than just showing you, something general that's going to be less appealing. You don't understand the value. And so I think this is where, especially conversational advertising as a channel more broadly, is so valuable, where in general, there's a lot of industries that are not necessarily so clear to consumers, right? So for example, the financial industry or insurance, right? I have a lot of questions about how does insurance work? What liabilities do I have? How does investing work? Like options, all these kind of things. Binance is one of our customers. They're advertising with us, and a lot of people have a lot of questions about crypto. How does it work? What's the price of Bitcoin, and so on. And so this is where conversational advertising is most useful. Is where people have a lot of questions about a category, right? Cars, okay, how powerful is this engine? How far can it go? When do I need to charge the company again? How expensive is going to be the fuel, right? People have a lot of questions. And so these are the categories where, um, AI is most valuable, where people have a lot of questions. And so chatting to LLMs, understanding brands is so valuable, right? If you think about, I think, LLMs in general, it is very much a sort of full funnel journey where a user opens a chat at the top of the funnel, and then the deeper they chat, they go lower through the funnel, right? They understand more about the brand, they understand more about the category, they create more brand affinity, they become a more educated customers, right? Higher quality customers, and that's what yields much better outcomes for advertisers, right? Where consumers inside of LLMs have a much more focused, concentrated attention. If you think about social media marketing, for example, there's a very fragmented attention, right? People just doom scrolling, context switching. Whereas here, I'm locked in, I'm focused on one topic. And the deeper I go, the more I learn, the more sophisticated I become. So it's not like I'm just doom scroll on TikTok, I see an ad, I click, I buy. Here, I understand why I buy, I understand why I need this. And so I think that's, just great for all the stakeholders here.
Fantastic. So it's like the full funnel within the conversation. As I go forward through the conversation, my purchase intent increases, and you've got the opportune moment to make that brand affinity even stronger. Yeah, I can see how AI, instead of making noise, what it actually does is increase the resolution, which means the ad is getting much more targeted. That's cool. I'm a fan. So, in this new landscape, who wins? Is it the biggest brands with the biggest budgets? Is it the platforms with all the deepest data? Or is it the companies that are genuinely most useful and trusted by consumers?
I think it's the companies that move the fastest. And so that actually opens up the gate for both big companies and small companies. I think the best marketing teams actually, just like in startups, right? Startups is all about moving fast, right? Silicon Valley is like move fast and break things and so on. But I think marketing is very similar to startups in that sense, where the best marketing teams are able to advertise at the speed of news. They're able to advertise at the speed of culture. They're able to advertise at the speed of thought. And so being as close as possible to those environments, I think those are companies that are going to be successful. It's the ones that move the fastest, that experiment the fastest, that learn the fastest, and therefore that are going to have the biggest arbitrage, right? I think especially in conversational advertising, we're very early in the cycle, right? We're it's the very, very early days of ads and LLMs. And so that's very valuable for the ones that move the fastest because they're going to have the biggest arbitrage, right? You have this asymmetry between supply and demand, right? Imagine being in the early days of Google ads or Facebook ads or TikTok ads, right? You have this net new supply, before new people scrolling on TikTok, today new people chatting to LLMs, and relatively few media buyers, not that many advertisers bidding for the same ad real estate. And so it's not that competitive. And so you get to have this incredible unit economics. Obviously, as more people come to the marketplace, more advertisers bid against each other, then it's going to become more competitive. You're going to have this price expansion, but that's why it's so valuable for the ones that move the fastest.
Andre, I love that. I love that. I love that answer. I love the fact that it's both for big Fortune 500 companies and also fast moving startups. And it's basically saying, look, the early bird catches the worm. We've got an opportunity right now. The taps are on. Come get the prize. Right now, you have game on situation where you're going to get all this. You should talk to Nestle if you're not doing already. They love to do media effectiveness.
All right,
And
we haven't spoken to them yet.
let me introduce you because they are awesome at getting in on early adoption of things like this and really getting going with that innovation. So you've argued that advertising can keep AI accessible beyond premium subscriptions. Can advertising become a positive model for brand access to intelligence? And what needs to be true for that model to work responsibly?
Yeah, I think AI is very expensive, right? Tokens are expensive. And so ads were the business model of the internet. It's becoming the business model of AI, where with advertising, we get to subsidize those environments. We get to make AI cheaper. We get to make AI more accessible. As long as we ensure that ads are served responsibly, in a user-friendly way, in a privacy-friendly way, where the ads don't disrupt the user's digital consumption, but they actually enhance the experience, they're additive, they're complementary, then I think that model is going to be incredible.
Yeah, you can see how that's the best of the both worlds. If you get some decent premium conversations going in the right moments, you don't disrupt the ad doesn't disrupt the user experience and actually adds to the experience. Suddenly you've got this flywheel going. So what's one thing? I know you've just come back from Cannes, but like I'd love to double tap on that. But what's one thing you've heard that CMOs need to let go of right now? Like one belief that a marketer has that they hold strong, but they just need to let go of.
Yeah, I think it's this indexing on clicks a lot. I think that's definitely a metric that is a proxy for engagement. It's a proxy for conversion. But as we enter this zero click economy, or at least fewer clicks economy, like we mentioned earlier, people are clicking less, they're chatting more. In some scenario, I care more about the user not clicking on my ad, but staying in the chat, asking questions about my brand, asking questions about the product, and just clicking on the website, being redirected, being lost, and losing them, right? And so if they click probably too early, that's actually an anti-signal, right? And so in that sense, clicks are not valuable. It's better for people to chat more, learn more, become more educated, and then only click kind of at the final moment where they're actually going to convert.
That's really cool. And I guess as you go forward, you'll start to measure, and you probably have it already, like average benchmarks for time in chat, and then the
Yes.
optimal time for the click.
Exactly. And that might actually happen over multiple conversations, right? Because maybe I can go through the funnel in one conversation, right? But sometimes I'm just gonna not go through the whole funnel. Maybe I'm gonna open the chat at the top of the funnel, chat a little bit, stop like mid funnel, and then maybe I'm gonna open the chat another day and then go, from mid to bottom and then exit the funnel through another conversation.
Uh, Pardon my curiosity here, but what kind of attribution have you got in terms of like post-click conversion and like linking it to a sale?
Well, we have all the standards kind of measurement and attribution. So, UTM's, pixel, server-side pixel, browser-side pixel. So everything else is standard there.
Fantastic. So you can really link it back and show the incrementality of this ad conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
That's wicked. So in a world of automation, more data, more AI, we've never had more than now, but obviously in a few months there'll be even more and it'll be exponential. What will remain uniquely human? What will the best brands still need to do better than machines?
Yeah, I think it's showing how human advertising is. I think if an ad is AI generated, I think it decreases a lot of its value, right? Why is great advertising powerful? Because it showcases the cost that the brand has sunk into the media. And so therefore it shows the commitment to the consumers, it shows the commitment to the industry and delivering value for them. And so any ad can be AI generated, in a few minutes with very little cost. I think that is great from some kind of advertising. But the best advertising is still going to remain the same, is actually doing things manually, making it real. If it's not real, then it loses a lot of its value, right? I can show an ad of a billboard on the moon, but if it's just AI generated, it's not as valuable if it's like actually done, right? And so I think a lot of the core principles of advertising still remain the same, right? Of spreading it doesn't matter to people who care, making it real, and those are the ideas worth sharing, right? Um, Ideas worth spreading is the ones that are actually done, that are truly executed. And so, in some sense, it's like, how do you do that when people always question everything online, right? Like, is this real? Is this not? And so, part of that, I think, is showing the behind the scenes of that, right? I think there's an Apple ad recently where they had I don't know if you saw with the icons kind of like flowing like that, and there was a rocket. Do you remember that ad? It's
That's
like from a few weeks ago. And they showed the behind the scene where like it looks AI generated, but it's actually totally human and they manually did it and it took a long time. And so that's super powerful. There's another Coinbase ad. Do you know the one where the people got dressed and it looks like a video
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
And so it looks like a video game and it looks totally AI generated. But then they show the behind the scenes and like totally human. And that's incredible.
So it's that level of transparency. That's actually what trust is, right? It's humanity, transparency, capability, reliability. So two elements of that. My man, you're speaking my language. I'm all about the human. And I think as we go forward in this AI era, like humanity is going to play a big part and the authenticity of the written word. And just like you said, the creativity that goes into
Yes,
human
it's all
designed
about
ads.
creativity. This
Yeah.
is where the alpha is. And I think I'm like the biggest ambassador of creativity. I think this is where you truly have the alpha.
So what happened at Cannes? Like how was it and what were the themes from Cannes that you spotted?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was obviously AI was center stage. I think 2025 was very much about organic advertising in AI, right? GEO, AEO, SEO for AI. And this year, the conversation has really shifted towards paid, right? Because this is the first can ever that ads have actually entered the chat, literally the first time, the first can ever where ads appeared in LLMs across ChatGPT, across other LLMs. And so it was obviously top of mind for a lot of CMOs thinking about how this conversational advertising um, becomes a new channel um, and becomes more prominent inside of the marketing mix. And how do I recalibrate my as a CMO a marketing portfolio that is AI native, right? How do I rebalance budgets across my channels, and how do I make those channel AI native for my marketing strategy?
I can see that totally, and the way you've broken it down in this conversation is phenomenal. Actually, the way that you've shown how this is a new channel, but how much more definitive and how the resolution is turned up on this. So what in terms of targeting, right? We know we're in marketing, we love targeting. What can we do in ChatGPT with Thrad for targeting?
Yeah, one of my words is that the context is the new cookie. And
Ooh,
so you don't need the cookies if you have a lot of context, right?
dude,
I
I
have a lot
think
of
I think that is the frame of this conversation. The context is the new cookie. That's awesome.
Yeah, and because I have a lot of context from the conversation, right? I don't really care about like where you were on all of the internet. If I just know about what are you chatting about right now and how can I show you an ad that's very helpful to you.
Yeah.
And so that is like a lot of the biggest value, right? That we have in conversation advertising and ads in ChatGPT and other LLMs is this context from the conversation, right? OpenAI has this framework called the context hints when you target based on the context, so not on keywords but context in queries, right? And so you go from keyword. That's another one, from keywords to queries. Right. Those are basically the prompts. What are people prompting? What are the queries that people have? And so I think that is kind of one of the biggest frameworks and shifts that conversational advertising unlocks, and that also ChatGPT has.
Okay, so final question for you. Where do you see marketing in the next 2 years?
Yeah. I think he's scaling the seeds that are being planted right now, right? And now these are just early conversations. Some incredible brands are already in the trenches testing that, but I think adoption will increase substantially. And so yeah, it's just a function of time, a function of scaling. The early days of testing, the market maturing from a targeting perspective, a measurement perspective, a standardization perspective. It's well, we're in the trenches today, but actually at a much bigger scale.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for joining and coming on the show and having this conversation. There's a bunch of marketers going to be listening to this, and I can totally see how if this is about ROI per dollar, and this is about making the most effectiveness about every dollar I spend, well, it's something that I need to start trying out now as a CMO, and it answers that question in my mind: what should I be doing right now with AI? So, very, very vital conversation, and again, real privilege and an honor to have you on.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
So here we are. Today is launch day of Magnetic Influence, I'm hoping you've got your copy because this book and the world, they're going to go together. We're in a world of disruption, fragmentation, and change. And what this book is a negotiation playbook for the advanced AI modern world. I'm going to help you maximize your influence and persuasion in an AI-centric world. I'm going to talk you through how to build influence in the negotiation room, in tough negotiations, dealing with difficult people, and leverage AI at the same time to do that. Because remember, AI has entered the room. It's in there with you now. So whether you like it or not, negotiation has changed. And the person that's going to win is what I call the hybrid negotiator. It's part human and part AI. I'm going to show you how to use the magnetic framework to become a magnetic individual. You're going to deliver impact, authenticity, you're going to build trust, you're going to follow your intuition, and you're going to connect with people in building a super connected network. This is what's going to explode not only your career, but your professional life and your personal life when you become a magnetic influence embodied person. You're going to know how to walk into the room with calm confidence and to bring people with you, not only just as a visionary, but leveraging the efficiencies of AI and still the warm characteristics of human connection. Trust is the rarest commodity in today's day and age, and this is going to take you from average to advanced negotiator. The book is out today, so I'm super happy. It's breaking records. It's #1 on Amazon, and it's in bookstores around the world. Go ask your bookstore for Magnetic Influence.